Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Southside Pod. I know you're used to the normal song, but you're in luck because you're one of the few that clicked on our podcast at the right moment to get the alternate opening song. Other people heard, the random, regular song where I talk about, Southside Pod, whatever, but you are lucky. You're very lucky. If you click on this again, you might get the other one. So don't click off. Listen, because you are the winner of the alternate opening Southside Pod song. And in the song, we don't talk about just the normal Southside suburbs. We talk about a few other ones. We go some deep cuts.
Ooh,
so if you're from that deep cut burb, you might hear your own town, and you can rejoice that they said your town's name on the opening to the Southside Pod. So if Mike and Chris, you are ready, I feel like I'm ready. We're going to start the song, the alternate song, for the winner, that's you, of the alternate Southside theme song. So are you ready at home? I'm going to ask you again because you're in your car and you think it's silly to answer the guy on your radio. So I'm going to ask you again, are you ready, Jim? That was cool for like 7 people. But if you are Jim, you know. You ready? Right? Mike's doing a 12-bar blues here. That's what this is called. But we're about like bar 7 here. We're going to get to 8, 9, 10. Then once we get to 1 again, we'll start the song. So just be patient, Jim, okay? Also not Jim. Get ready for the Southside Pod. We got Beach, Bridgeview, Burbank, Dolphin, Riverdale, Calumet City, Blue Island, Chicago Heights, Evergreen Park, Harvey, and Joliet and Lansing, Midlothian, New Lenox, Oak Forest, Inlet Park, Oak Lawn, Payless Heights, Elsa, Crestwood, Chicago Ridge. That's pretty cool. Did you hear your own town there, Jim? Also not Jim. When I say not Jim, I'm talking to everyone else that's not named Jim. And I'm sorry if you're James, you're fancy, right? You're super fancy. You're probably eating a Chick-fil-A in your car. That's the fanciest Chicago Southside suburb thing I can think of. The other people are, Jim's eating Taco Bell, you're eating Chick-fil-A. But Jim, this song is for everyone else. Also not Jim, this song's for everyone else as well. It's the Southside Pod.
That was cute. Can we do the real song now?
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost a weekend and you don't know what to do. Or you just need something fun to listen to.
Southside Pod!
Yes, we're on the air. And the gang's all here, all things on the South Side. We're listening to the Southside Pod. Looking for the best Southside breweries. Or you might just need an awesome place to eat.
Southside Pod!
Mount Greenwood, Evergreen, Blue Island, Beverly, Payless, and all sub 2. You're tuned into the Southside Pod.
Southside Pod!
Oakland, Midlothian,
Southside Pod!
Oak Forest, Chicago Ridge, Flossmoor, and Bridgeview. You're listening to Southside Pod!
Bellying up to the 9-foot homemade oak bar. Pour yourself a cold one. My name is Chris. That's Bill. That's Mike. This is Southside Pod. We're going to take a look at the high school basketball playoffs that are kicking off this week and will be going on for the next couple of weeks. Always a lot of excitement on the South Side while the kids are out there playing for the sectionals, the super sectionals, the state championship. Tim O'Brien from the Beverly Review will be joining us. Our next guest coming up here in just a few moments also has a comedy show on the South Side you're going to want to hear all about. You heard about our sponsors right at the start of the show. Family Waterproofing Solutions, voted the Southland's best year after year. And don't forget to mention Socks in the Basement for your discount. Also, their express service has rolled out this week. This is how this works. If you know what you need, like I know I need a sump pump, or I know I need this kind of repair done, they have the prices right on the website. If you want to skip the estimates, if you need the work done quickly, select it, make your purchase, schedule it immediately, get it done. Check out Express Service and all that Family Waterproofing Solutions has to offer. Your basement's best defense is at familydry.com. Sitting down here at the 9-Foot Homemade Oak Bar, Ken Houbolt is down here with me. He's got a comedy show. How are you, Ken?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks
Are
for
you a
having me.
comedian?
No, I am not.
Because I was going to say, we're sitting down here having a conversation. Nothing funny yet. No. I mean, but you're organizing, and this is for a good cause as well. And that's why I wanted to have you over here. It sounds like you got some big things going on. You got a bunch of different comedians coming in. It's coming up this weekend on the 25th. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so over at the Beverly Arts Center on Saturday, the 25th at 7 p.m., we're going to have an event called Laugh to Create Awareness. It's the fourth time we've been having it. It's a comedy night. We bring out 4 comedians. We've got a guest speaker, Leslie Ryrick. We'll get into that in a little bit. But to take a step back and let you know how we got into this was about 5 years ago, Lewis University, which I'm alumni of, came knocking on the door and asked if I wanted to get involved with other alumni and if we wanted to, do either host an event or anything like that. And I said the only way I would do it is if we were going to do something about mental health.
Okay.
And create an awareness for it. How it came about, a family member of mine was in a hospital after a suicide attempt, and we were there for 6 days. And every time, being at Christ Hospital, I'd take a break and go for a walk. I'd run into people I knew, and in doing so, they'd ask why I was there, and I would lie, And so it just went on for like 6 days, different reasons, whether I was there for a test, helping something with the kids.
But it's such an uncomfortable thing to talk about.
Absolutely.
And you're sitting there going, I'm not going to, one, I don't want to burden anybody with it. Secondly, I don't know if I really want to talk about it because of what the other person's going through. And then it's just such a taboo subject even now.
That's what we figured we got to change it. The last day I was there, I ran into a cousin and asked why I was there, and I had to tell him the truth. And when I did, I felt so relieved on it. So as time went on, we, a couple of weeks later, I was in Potbelly and having lunch, and I heard two ladies sitting there talking, and one said, we talked about that their son had a suicide attempt, and the other one said, don't worry, I won't tell you anything. I won't tell anybody about it. And I'm like, no, that's the opposite. We should be telling everybody talk about it. If little Johnny breaks his arm playing football, we say, oh, what a hero. But if little Johnny's got mental illness or depression, then it's not as cool as the other one is too. And I believe that's wrong. So that's why we started Laugh to Create Awareness.
First of all, I think it's a great cause. Secondly, I think it's the best time for it. I talk to a lot of different types of guests on these podcasts that I do on the Broadcast Basement On Demand Radio Network. And on the one out of Evergreen Park, the EP podcast, we will have on from time to time a principal from a school. We'll have somebody that comes in either from the high school or the grammar school or whatever, because we're just talking about things that are going on in the school. And inevitably, it comes up about how difficult the last few years were and how you're seeing suicide rates going up and you're seeing more issues with mental health than you've ever seen before. And so I think it's a very timely thing to be doing right now.
I agree. And the one thing to realize is that it just doesn't only affect the person that's going through it. It also, it's very, socioeconomical on there too. And the fact that it not only affects the person going through it, it affects the family and the friends of them. It affects the workplace. It affects the economy. We see, the problems with homelessness and the problems with the military and everything else that comes along too. So it does affect a lot of people on there, just if it's one person having it. So by creating awareness, by us talking about it, that's pretty much what we're trying to do here.
So how do you select the comedians? Are you just selecting Southsiders to come in and do it? Are you selecting comedians where this is an important cause to them? Like, how do you pick who's going to be on stage?
Great question. So Joe Kilgallen's been with us for all four shows. We have to stick with Joe. His wife had a baby at the very first show, and yet he came out and performed, and it was great. But yeah, we do have Anthony Fuentes has been featured on WGN, former Army soldier, and he suffers from PTSD, and he uses comedy to do that. So that's one of them that on there too. The other two is we look throughout the year. That's part of the fun part of doing this, is that I get to sit on YouTube and watch lots and lots of comedians. So we try to pick local comedians that are here. We got Brian Flannery and Jeannie Dugan. Jeannie Dugan's a Southside girl. And then along with Joe. So that gives us 4 comedians that we have for the show.
All right. And then you're scouting them. So you're sitting on the YouTube, you're going to the comedy clubs. What's the comedy scene like right now on the South Side? Because you just rattled off some names here. And to me, like, I know 1 or 2 that are floating around, but I don't know all those names.
Yeah, I don't know. I think back, in the late 80s, early 90s when, we were first started dating and stuff like that and heading out to the clubs. And it seemed like it was a lot more prevalent. The reason we use comedy is because when you think about depression and mental health, it's an inward feeling that people suffering that have. When you think about comedy, it's the opposite. It's an outward sign. You know, it's natural. It just comes out when you want to laugh. It's not something that that's unnatural. It just happens on there too. So it's the opposite of what we're trying to prevent. So I think looking at with the internet and going out to some clubs to see, you get a good wide variety of it too. You got to make this is a family audience, so we got to make sure that we have the appropriate material on here.
So this will be family orientated.
Yeah, I mean it's
basically all my comedy specials. Like when I'm watching them on Netflix, I have to send my kid out of the room.
Yeah, so I mean, I there's over the years we've had a couple of things that have been probably questionable.
Well, that's comedy though. I mean, comedy's questionable,
right? And you're going to a comedy night, so you kind of expect things to happen. But again, it is with Lewis University, Catholic school, so we want to make sure that we're doing things that are appropriate for everybody.
Tone down a little bit. All right, so the show is coming up on the 25th, so that is just a few days away here on Saturday the 25th. How do people get tickets to the show?
So tickets will be available at the door. They're also available online. Tickets are $50 each.
What do you get for the tickets? Just the show? You got a dinner? You got a meal?
The show. You get the show, and then what we do is with the money that's raised at the show is we had 3 goals when we started out as a committee. Number 1 was to create awareness. No matter what we do about promoting this event, or we do a couple little fundraisers that we do throughout the year, that does create awareness about it. We're talking about it. Number 2 is we created a scholarship at Lewis University for a graduate student pursuing a degree in counseling. And that person has experienced mental health issues, either themselves or in their family. We've reached endowment on the scholarship. Now everything we do increases the amount of the scholarship. And we've given it out 3 years, Chris. I could tell you that it's a really hard decision every year that the committee has to do who we're going to select on there too. So because there's great people in there that are in this program, and we're happy to support that. And number 3, what we do is we provide funding to the Lewis University Center for Counseling. What that does, that allows them to educate 6,500 students that they can go out into the world and talk about mental health and not be afraid.
Sounds like a worthy cause, and it's going to come up on Saturday the 25th. You can buy tickets at the door. You can and you got a website? I would imagine you got a website.
Yes, we do. Right? So you can go to www.alumni.luisu.edu/comedy night.
There's a lot of dots and slashes in there. I'll just throw like a link for those that have a podcast player that shows links. They can click on the name of the event in the description of the show and get through that way as well. Ken, I think that this is a great cause. I think it'll be a fun night. It sounds like you got some fun comedians in there. Who's your pick in there? I mean, like I don't want you to pick your favorite child, but I mean, who in that group do I not want to miss?
Thanks for bringing it up, Chris. I forgot to miss that. We're going to have a guest speaker this year. Leslie Ryrick's going to be joining us. She's a nationally renowned speaker from right by South Bend. And she's going to be there, and she's going to tell her story. I guarantee you're not going to want to miss it. She's going to come out and talk first, and then we're going to get into the comedies. Then we're going to laugh and have a good time. But she definitely promotes our cause by creating awareness every day on social media and also in the presentations that she gives. So I'm gonna pick her to be my favorite. This way, none of the comedians will get mad at me.
All right, Laugh to create awareness for mental health at Beverly Arts Center. It's this Saturday, February 25th. Ken, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate it.
Our good friend Tom Walsh, your Edward Jones financial advisor, actually popped in on a recent segment here on Southside Pod. You can actually get the full video of us hanging out over at Blue Island Beer Company in Blue Island on the Southside Pod YouTube channel, and they've been putting clips up on the social media. If you're not in the video, don't worry. It's on the last episode of Southside Pod. Just get it anywhere podcasts can be found, and always at southsidepod.com on demand. Tom's been on the South Side for over 2 decades, taking care of people's money, their retirement, their financial planning. He takes care of me. He takes care of Bill. There is no logical explanation for Mike. But Tom crafts a plan. He works with you. He looks at where you're at, where you're going, where you want to go, the time that he has to work with, and he comes up with something, and he's always communicating with me. Check out Tom, corner of 111th and Kedzie. You can also pick up the phone and give him a ring, 773-779-0023. Little known fact about when we sit down and record for this show at the 9-Foot Homemade Oak Bar, I always get rid of the first segment that we record. Like, whatever it is, it sucks. I always just drop it immediately.
Even if it's
For your joke,
It's never been good. It's never been good. There's never been a first thing that we talk about
that's
good.
he's challenging you right now, Bill.
Because you're not ready to go yet. Okay,
No.
you gotta
chug
get your,
that seltzer.
you gotta find something that gets your motor running. That's why I always have you recording songs early on to just get you going. Calms down Mike, gets you moving. Like, you should sing one right now. Start, Mike.
Sing, monkey.
I'm just a monkey, pull my strings. I will do anything for a laugh. If it makes you laugh, I will be your monkey every day. I'm just a monkey, pull my strings. I'm just a monkey, ooh, ooh, ee. Give me a banana and I'll do a little dance. Give me a banana and I'll put it in my pants. If it makes you laugh, I'll be your monkey. Swinging in a tree, swinging from a vine. Swinging in a tree, I'll swing all the time. If it makes you laugh, I'll smash the banana in my face. I'll be your monkey if you'll be my banana. I'll be your monkey if you'll be my banana. I'm a good source of potassium. I will be your monkey. If it makes you laugh, I will do anything. Monkey. If it makes you laugh, you can pull my string. Monkey. I keep saying, make it a little more. You know how in every song I talk. That's this part.
Yeah, monkey.
There's these lyrics. I'm talking about being a monkey.
Right, I know.
I also talking about pulling my strings,
Right.
which is like a puppet.
Right. I'm getting the imagery. I'm understanding what you're doing. I'm picking up what you're laying down.
I didn't want you to think I was putting strings on an actual monkey because I didn't want to get people, animal rights
No,
to
people
call
would get
us.
upset about that.
They would get very upset.
Right.
Because you shouldn't. If there's one thing you shouldn't do in life is tie up a monkey. Well, there's a lot. There's probably like low on the list of things you should
There's
never
a
do.
couple of things I can think of that you can't do.
Wait, if I asked anyone, what should you never do in life? How far down do you think the list would be before it would be tie up a monkey? Pretty fucking low. I mean, murder.
Like, 1992, tying up a monkey could get you, like, not elected to Congress.
I won't tie up a monkey. Don't tie up a monkey.
High school basketball postseason is upon us. In fact, I know there are a couple of games that probably happened right before you heard this episode, but I'm guessing that whatever happened in the first round is probably going to be an expected finish. Right, Tim O'Brien of the Beverly Review? We're not going to talk about a team here today that you're going to be like, this team's great, and they're going to get beat in the first round, are we?
With basketball, there's always a shot of upsets, but especially regional semifinals, if you're a top seed, you know, the games that are going on tonight, Wednesday, as we're talking, if you get upset, you're probably not going to want to be listening to me talk anyways. So you're pretty safe that you should be playing on Friday night in a regional championship and not too focused on that regional semifinal. So you should be safe there, Chris.
Is that how that basically works? So, like, break this down for me. It's been a while since I was really into high school basketball. There's games this week, and you're very quickly figuring out regional championships. Isn't that like the region's almost like 4 teams, and the winner of those 4 win the region, and then you move on to sectional, then you move on to super sectional. So it doesn't take long to get to, the cream of the crop, right?
Pretty much. Usually, with any sport, there's always a shot, and especially with basketball, if a kid gets hot from 3-point, a regional semifinal could turn on a dime real quick. The regional championships are usually pretty legit with 4 classes. And then next week is when you're going to start to see some pretty elite high-end matchups in the sectional semis and the sectional championships. You'll run into a couple really memorable, really worthwhile matchups Friday night for a regional championship. But for the most part, if you're a big basketball fan, those really strong games will kick in next week in the sectional semifinals.
So Tim O'Brien covers all sports here for the Beverly Review, and so you're not covering the entirety of the South Side. Let's talk about the teams that you know the most about first. Who's going to, in your mind, get through this first week, and you're expecting them to make a long run in the postseason that you're currently covering? That's
the fun with boys basketball. It's not that I'm top heavy. It's just it's a really deep area for basketball, and the unfortunate part is they're usually bunched up in the same sectional, so they'll beat each other up in the regional or next week. So it kind of thins the field. So I don't have multiple shots to get to a super or, in some cases a state run. But it's kind of the usual suspects. Brother Rice ended up being our top seed in Class 4A. They're number 2 at the St. Rita sectional. St. Rita, with all their D1 prospects and kind of all the hubbub that everybody was in about everyone was transferring to St. Rita, they've kind of righted the ship. So nobody's looking past anything. I'm not calling the regional championships trap games for them, but I think everybody on the South Side has next Wednesday circled, because that would be Brother Rice facing against St. Rita in a sectional semifinal. So that's obviously a gigantic potential matchup. Marist has a potentially interesting game looming on Friday night against likely Bloom Township, unless there's an upset after we talk. As you go down the bracket some, Kenwood is the one that they're going to have to run into. Whoever, they're the top seed, one of the best teams in the Chicago Public League, so they could, they're gettable. St. Rita gave them a good game last year in the sectional, but you never know. And then as you drop down to 3A, De La Salle and St. Ignatius are the top 2 seeds in their city sectional. So they've got a good shot to get out and make a super and see what happens from there. And then the other 3A sectional, for my coverage area at least, Marion Catholic has a potentially really interesting game with Ag Science on Friday night. Marion's had a nice season, a little up and down, but they're facing a strong schedule, and Ag Science has had one of their best years ever. I believe they're 23-7 right now. Their coach, Sean Finnan, has done a good job kind of building that program into just a consistent winner at a school that you wouldn't think would be a consistent boys basketball winner. So it's going to be a fun next couple of weeks just to see, can anybody pull some Cinderella runs? Can you put together a win streak here, pull an upset or two? And, who knows? I wouldn't be surprised if there's a team at state in a couple weeks, but the route isn't easy for anyone in our area.
Tim O'Brien joining us here on Southside Pod to talk a little high school basketball before the playoffs get going, or as they're getting going. And it's all brought to you by the law offices of Parente and Norem. Have you been injured at work? Then you need a team that will do what it takes to fight for your rights. The insurance companies only care about one thing: their bottom line. At the law offices of Parente and Norem, their team has the experience, dedication, proven results it takes to get you the care and compensation you deserve. And they have recovered over $425 million for their injured clients and their loved ones. For a free case evaluation, Southside Pod listeners, call or text them today at 312-641-5926 or visit pninjurylaw.com. beverlyreviewbeverly.com. And Tim, you're sitting there and you're talking about these matchups, you're running everything down. It was a lot to take in. But one thing kind of stuck out to me, and that's when you're talking about Brother Rice, St. Rita. Rice seated higher in the tournament. Rita, a lot of people believe, has more talent, and as you mentioned, got things together as the season went on. So break down that matchup for me if we get it, barring an upset.
Brother Rice was rewarded with sectional voting because they didn't play a crazy national schedule. They played a really strong Illinois schedule with some games, a couple games out of state. But their record was stronger than St. Rita's. And St. Rita was playing a national schedule against some ranked teams, some just good teams, and they piled up a couple losses in the process. I believe they've got 10 or 11 losses right now. It was hard. It became hard to rank them or seed them because anyone who's watched St. Rita can see they're freakishly talented. They're very good. They're quite capable of winning state if they play well and things fall into place. But they've had some tough losses too, so that it worries you at times. Brother Rice is a team that can knock them out. You never know though. That game, should the seeds play out, would be at St. Rita next Wednesday night. Can St. Rita just continue to put it together and get on the same page? And Brother Rice is just a fun, deep team to watch. They go 9-10 deep, and they can all play. Ahmad Henderson's their star guard. He's been just doing big things for them for 3 years now. So, best team, best players. It's one of those fun Southside matchups, and you put it in a packed gym in a sectional semifinal. I mean, that's after a long winter. That's what you're kind of hoping for. A good game next week.
All right, Tim O'Brien writes for the Beverly Review. If you want to follow any of the teams that he's mentioned or in his general area, he's the guy to go to. What's the best way for people to find you, Tim?
I got a lot of options. The big one just for the paper, it's beverlyreview.net. We're over on Western at 105th and Western. Give us a call at 773-238-3366. We can set you up with a subscription if you're looking for copies of the paper. We love covering our neighborhood stuff, and we always appreciate the neighborhood support. And then just look for me. Just search Tim O'Brien Beverly Review on Twitter, and I'll try and keep you updated for these next couple of weeks with lots of scoring updates.
He's a good follow. If you want to keep track of what's going on with the games, Tim, thanks so much for jumping on Southside Pod.
Oh, for sure. I appreciate you having me, Chris.
Wrapping up another 30 minutes of good with Southside Pod and the Southside Bulletin Board, brought to you proudly by Cool Clouds Vapor Shop. Quitting smoking is hard, and Cool Clouds wants to offer you an alternative, a great taster bar, all kinds of CBD products. Check them out, Northeast Corner, 95th and Kedzie in Evergreen Park, or head over to coolcloudsvapor.com. Friday night, the 24th, 8 p.m., O'Leary's Lantern is playing at Clancy's on 95th Street in Oak Lawn, 5763 West 95th Street. They're kicking off the high holiday early. It's still February, but they're ready to roll at Clancy's. 6 p.m. Friday night in Tinley Park, Hailstorm Brewing Company, our good friends over there, is going to have a band with no cover, a really good band. The Bourbon Belts are going to be playing 6 p.m. until 9. Kitchen's open, all ages welcome, 8060 186th Street in Tinley Park. And also on Friday, it's not a Southside location, but Mike's band, Missing Ted, is playing at Two Hound Red Brewing Company. You got to drive all the way to Glen Ellen to see him, but if you want to see Missing Ted with Mike playing guitar with his buddies, check that out on Friday night. Saturday morning, you may be tired, so how about some caffeination? The Caffeination Collaboration 7, occurring at Imperial Oak Brewing in Willow Springs at 501 Willow Boulevard. They're going to have beer and food infused with unique varieties and roast from 10 Drops coffee beans. This just seems like a good excuse to start drinking before noon. I like it. In Lamont on Saturday, starting at 7 p.m., Laughs in Lamont at the Bridge. Doors and bar open at 5, show starts at 7. 18 and over show, go to lamontdowntown.com to buy your tickets. Also on Saturday night at 7 p.m. in Blue Island. You heard this mentioned on the show last week when we were visiting Blue Island Beer Company. That's where this show is going to be. Joanna Connor, live at Blue Island Beer Company. This is a well-known blues act. It should be a great night. You can get your tickets at BlueIslandBeerCo.com. Also on Saturday night, 9 p.m. until 1 in the a.m., Motley 2 returns to the Thirsty Beaver in Crestwood at 5599 127th Street. Your relaxing Sunday is brought to you by SidSauce.net. The sauces are bottled on the South Side after the hot peppers are grown here on the South Side. They have a sauce for any kind of food. We had taco night the other night here in the Lanuti household, and I had like 7 of them lined up on the table. Fresh, small batch, flavor-packed, hot sauces delivered to your door. See it all at SidSauce.net. And back to Lamont for Sunday on the 26th starting at 2 p.m. A free program, The Lost Town of Sag Bridge. All ages event about a 19th century canal town, which is now part of present-day Lamont. You'll see photos, check out turn-of-the-century transportation, and hear some ghost stories. Pre-register at LamontDowntown.com. Whatever you're doing this weekend, make sure you and a friend and a stranger, pick a stranger, and make all of you subscribe to Southside Pod. You can do it on any podcast player, anywhere podcasts can be found, and always at SouthsidePod.com.
It's the Southside! It's the Southside! It's Southside Pod! Thanks for listening! Thanks for tuning in to the Southside Pod! Y'all come back now, you hear?